One of the biggest invisible contracts that women inherit is that being single is a consolation prize, last resort, or a sign of deficit, okay? That your life is on hold, that it has no meaning or value if you are not partnered with a man. Because you have to be clear here, systems of power don't give a heck if you're not a heterosexual woman. They are very invested in women partnering with men and procreating, okay, with men, ideally. And so if you believe that your current life is a consolation prize, then you will struggle to invest in it. You'll struggle to really make a way for yourself that is laced with joy and peace and something in your life that excites you. And I think what we have to really understand as women, particularly if you're single, is that it is your life. Your life itself should not be a plan B. All right. It should very much be designed deliberately, crafted deliberately. And so I want to share some things with you because you have to liberate yourself mentally before you can liberate yourself financially. And the reason why this is important, as you know, I talk about money and women and money and single women a lot deliberately because becoming resourced gives you options and choices. It allows you to have leverage in life. And it also allows you to create infrastructure, the type of infrastructure that allows you to exist within your life with a measure of peace and joy. But what I find a lot of the time when I talk about money is that a lot of women struggle with this because actually they are still mentally enslaved and captive to this idea that life begins when you are in a relationship with a man, and that the joy and the experiences you can have only happen, okay, once you are with a man. There was a video that's going around on TikTok at the moment where there's a young woman saying that essentially that because she has chosen to cook and clean, that's why she's able to sit on a beach with her partner, who she described as her husband, but it's unclear if they're actually married. And you should see the responses. I mean, the video has been stitched a number of times. And the young woman in question is continuing to double down on the fact that actually the reason why women are having a reaction to her video is because no man wants them. This attitude around your value and your identity, your inherent value as a woman, being inextricably linked to being in a relationship with a man is deeply entrenched across all the generations, across every single culture at this point, right? And that includes cultures that might well be more matriarchal, because by the way, it's often thought that, you know, matriarchal communities don't still desire partnership and companionship with men, okay? The thing about this is that you must liberate yourself from this mental captivity around your inherent value and identity. Now, hear me well, because so many people quite often will respond and say, well, being in a relationship is a natural human desire. Everyone desires to be with someone. Well, first of all, not everyone does actually desire to be in a relationship or a marriage with a man. But that's one thing. But it is true that human connection, human development, human survival to a great extent often depends upon community and presence and warmth. This is not what I'm talking about though, okay? What I'm not really talking about is that human desire, okay? I'm not also advocating for solitude or being in solitary confinement, metaphorically speaking, as a woman who's single. What I'm saying is, if you want to liberate yourself financially, quite often you have to liberate yourself mentally about what you fundamentally believe about your worth, your value, and money. And this is why it's so important for single women in particular to build economic agency. You need to expand your economic imagination about the ways that you can make money. Because if you are still obeying certain invisible contracts around money, which dictate that you should be dependent upon a man, that it is virtuous, that it is the safe thing to do, it is stable, and that in fact, that is a sign that you are valuable. Because so many women fundamentally have been taught that if a man invests financially in you, that is because you are valuable. That is because he values you. This is why it's so important to free yourself. Emancipate yourself from these ideas and beliefs, because they are myths. You are not more valuable if a man is giving you money, if a man provides for you. Okay, it's not inherently female and feminine to live this soft life where you're only receiving and not exerting any effort at all. That is not real. That is a myth. It is the adult thing to build economic agency in your own life as a woman. Now, here's the thing. Money is not about, when I talk about this, I'm not talking about getting rich for the sake of it, becoming a billionaire, becoming a millionaire, because quite often people will respond with that argument. That's not what I'm talking about. You do not have to be unethical. You do not have to be corrupt by your own standards to build your own economic agency. It is about choice and creating choice so that once you've freed yourself mentally, you don't feel like you have to just accept any old thing that any man dishes out to you, because you need to be stable and you need to depend upon a man for money. It really is about reducing unnecessary dependence, giving yourself options. And I think it's so important to train your mind to start thinking about how you can leverage the skills that you have, how you can be adding value, solving some problems, and how you can be rewarded with money specifically. All right? This is what we need to be thinking about as women. There's a glut of content and advice and information out there about how to find a man. And quite frankly, a lot of the time, women are not focusing enough on their own personal development and psychological adulthood, separate to learning to perform certain skills in order to get a man. Right? In fact, there are women, because I meet these women all the time. They join my training programs. They'll book one-to-one sessions. And a lot of the time, one of the things that comes out quite a bit is that they have been capping their financial potential because they do not want to be unattractive and undesirable to a man that sometimes they've never even met. Right? This man is still largely in their imagination. This is a problem. And yes, it's true that there's a cost of living crisis. Yes, it's true that the economy is difficult. That has nothing to do with the economy that you can create in your own life. This is why I talk about the single woman economy. I had to create an economy for myself, and I do that in a plethora of ways so that I can generate income in my own life. You have to liberate yourself mentally. Okay? The difficulties that exist for other people, they don't have to exist for you. You can choose to think about money in a different way. You can choose to lock in and generate money in your own life. The other thing that we as women need to do is learn to work smarter. And part of that is leveraging systems of power like social media, like artificial intelligence. Working harder doesn't automatically create more income, right? But we live in a time where social media is available. A lot of these social media platforms are free to create a page on. It doesn't cost you anything. You've got artificial intelligence. At the moment, it is still accessible. At the moment, it's still accessible. There are things that are now possible that it would have required you to hire an entire team to do, to achieve. You can sell digital products, create digital products if you don't want to sell them, or create. You can create your own. You can sell other people's. You can consult. You can become a trained coach. You can mentor people. There's so much online educational opportunity out there for you. Remote work. And look, here's the thing. AI doesn't replace expertise. One of the things that is hugely underestimated right now, especially if you're a woman with some life experience, judgment, skill, and taste. These things can't be replaced by any technology, by the way. And on top of that, unlike social media, which I think for a long time was presented as a young person's game, the thing about artificial intelligence is you need to be somebody who has solved problems over and over again. People with life experience have done that. And so now is the time for you to lock in, learn an AI tool well. Learn an AI tool well if you're a single woman. And think about the ways that you can use it to either enhance and amplify existing skills in a job that you might have, or you learn a new skill and start thinking, how can I monetize this thing? How can I monetize this thing? Right? Because the thing about artificial intelligence, it amplifies expertise. And I'm going to be talking more fully about all the ways we can be making money as single women. And I need to get practical and tactical with you. And also I'm going to be talking about the ways I am using artificial intelligence in my life, both in my personal life and in my professional life, the route through which I generate income in my life. You need to be focused on building valuable skills. And I know that this life can be tiring. A lot of single women, time and time again, I see it online, I see it offline. you're tired, right? Because yes, sometimes there's an element that it feels like a burden at times to be responsible for yourself financially completely. But you know what? Like I said, we can learn to work smarter so that we can have more money than we need. You do not have to be a millionaire or even wealthy, but you do need to build infrastructure in your life, and you need to have more money than you need so that you're not on the breadline. You're not barely getting by. This does not have to be your reality just because you're a single woman. Use technology, use and leverage these systems of power to take yourself to the next level. I feel so strongly about this. All right. A lot of the time, I'm sorry, when you talk to people, a lot of the time, the problems that they've got are almost always money related. And one thing about having money or being able to put your hand on money is that you do not have to operate at the level of the problem. Listen to me well. Because when you've got a little bit of money to put your hand on, if something happens with the car or the boiler or something else, your mind is on how quickly can we get this fixed? Who do I go to? What service provider do I use? As opposed to worrying about the fact that you don't have the money at all. This is critical as a single woman. And it's also very important for you to lock in and build community as part of that infrastructure. You need to be around other single women who are forward thinking, forward moving. It's not a nice extra. You do need community. Again, it goes back to that piece where people say, well, we all need human connection. Yes, and community can absolutely provide that. It will enable you to become more resilient, and because we do need resilience as single women. And also, it becomes very important when you're aging. Maybe you're caring for parents, you're disabled, you have chronic illnesses, or indeed you're trying to figure out the way that you create, develop, and nurture skills that you can go on to monetize. A lot of the time, your marital status is the least interesting part of your life. And quite frankly, you being single is not the reason you're broke. I'm sorry, it is not. It is all about the mental liberation that you need to do, moving into psychological adulthood and thinking about how you can learn how to generate income in your life. You are not broke because you are single. You are not struggling financially because you are single. No. It's because you haven't unlocked yet what you're truly capable of as an adult woman. That's what's really happening here. And it can feel like it's a rescue fantasy. It's an escape fantasy when you think to yourself, life could be so much better if I had a partner. Well, no, not always. That comes with its trade-offs. Right? A secure life is not built accidentally. It's built deliberately. So there are some things you need to be thinking about. There are 5 things that I often teach when it comes to single women building infrastructure in their lives. One is your calendar. How are you spending your time? Our calendars often tell us the truth about what's important to us, what we value, and what we're actually prioritizing in real time. I can tell you this as someone who, I run a business. I have to generate my own income. I am my safety net and plan B. So the truth is, I have to often look at my calendar day to day and think, how am I actually spending my time? Am I spending time on things that move me forward, whether it be financially, health-wise, intellectually, whatever it might be? The first thing is your calendar, right? Are you the last priority on your own calendar? The second thing is your energy. This is where we talk about things like the nervous system, all right? And whether or not you are regulating your nervous system so that you have the energy that you need to function, to operate in life. The third one is your environment. This is places and people. Now, in terms of places, your physical environment matters. It really matters. And if you're neurodiverse, it matters even more at times. A lot of people are kind of have sensitivities in terms of their senses, etc., colors. One of the reasons why you'll see, and people comment on it when they watch my videos, is that it's the same setting every time, because this is the setting I work in. All right. I like simple lines. I like no more than 2-3 colors. I've always been a kind of cream. It's got to be simple. I might add a candle. That plant is only there, by the way, it's hanging on for dear life. But, I like simplicity because for my senses, it makes a big difference. For example, when I leave my apartment at times, there's cars honking, there's the air and the breeze, there's the subway going, then there's boom boxes on the corners. It can be an overload for my nervous system. That's why I cherish the time that I have in my apartment where I can regulate myself. I can think clearly. I can rest. So my physical environment is a massive factor in me being able to create the infrastructure and have infrastructure that enables me to function in my life, to have the clarity I need to do the work I do, and to always be thinking, actually, how do I generate more income in my life? The same goes for people in your environment. Sometimes you need to do a bit of a cleanse of the people, right? The fourth area is money, okay? The fact of the matter is we need money to live. You can be altruistic, you can be charitable, you can talk about how money corrupts and how it's greedy to want money and the love of money. You can do that all you like. But ultimately, when the utility bill needs to be paid, you will need money. You can't barter for oranges and potatoes instead of paying your utility bill with money, right? It is infrastructure. Being resource supports you fundamentally to exist in your life. And actually, it's the difference between being in survival mode and thriving. And being in survival mode for too long is not good for any woman. This is why it cracks me up when I hear women talking about the feminine and the natural divine design and the soft life. And then they link that to being with a man. Sorry, the truth of the matter is the evidence speaks for itself. There are plenty of women in relationships with men who are living in survival mode. Because the truth of the matter is a man does not guarantee that you will thrive. It does not guarantee that you can flood your body and your system with oxytocin, with joy, with peace. It doesn't guarantee that. Okay? You, though, can design your life deliberately. You can create this infrastructure that I'm referring to, so that you can exist in your life with more joy and more ease. Does that mean that everything is easy? No. Does that mean everything is simple? No. Does that mean that there aren't real things that you experience because you are a single woman? No. But what I am saying is the reason you're broke is not because you're single. That is not the fundamental reason why you are broke. I think a lot of women have to sit down and ask themselves, if nothing fundamentally changed about your relationship status for the next 10 years, what infrastructure would you need to build to make sure that your life felt meaningful, supported, and joyful? If nothing fundamentally changed about your relationship status for the next 10 years, what infrastructure would you need to build to make sure that your life felt meaningful, joyful, and supported? That is the question you need to ask yourself. And then you need to reverse engineer from there. And at this point, lastly, what I will say is, look, I appreciate the fact that for some women, they experience sorrow and grief and disappointment and frustration, because this may not be the way you envisioned your life. You know, most girls are conditioned and programmed into believing that they will meet somebody, that their life will be spent in partnership. That doesn't happen for everyone for various reasons. And also, not everybody desires that. Some people are single by choice. So I'm not saying that you have to reject relationships. I'm not saying you shouldn't want to imagine falling in love. What I am saying is that actually you cannot make one relationship responsible for your entire life and the quality of the experience of your life itself. That's on you. And you can absolutely design a life. You can design a life that you can flourish within in a single state. Now, I would encourage you to download the Invisible Contract Framework Foundation, which is completely free, somewhere in the description somewhere. But what that will do is allow you to privately reflect upon the invisible contracts governing your life that tell you all of the time that you're of less value, and that the reason why you don't have any money or enough money or as much money as you want is because you are single.